Let's talk about the sociology of the English language. If you're watching this, you probably realize English is the most widely spoken language in the world. As far as native speakers are concerned, it certainly is not the biggest. It lags a long way behind Mandarin Chinese and also Spanish, the first and second biggest languages in the world as far as native speakers are concerned. But as far as those who can speak the language, English is by far the world's biggest language nowadays. In fact, there are more people speaking English now as a second language than there are native speakers like me speaking it. That's a remarkable change in what's happening globally. An academic was telling me recently that of all the English conversations taking place right now, at least one person on average is speaking as a non-native speaker. Again, that's remarkable. Whether that statistic is true, I'm not quite sure. But because I travel to a lot of places, I spend a huge amount of time in Asia, I've lived in places like Spain, I would say there is a chance that yes, more than half the conversations using the English language right now have at least one person who's not a native like me. This concept of so many people speaking the same language and coming from different parts of the world creates a uniqueness not really experienced before. It may have been experienced to a degree when the Romans were around speaking Latin, when the French were in places like England, where a lot of the rich spoke French, not English. But this phenomena is very good to be aware of, especially you as somebody learning the language. And lots of people I speak to, those learning advanced English, they want their grammar to be perfectly correct. They're asking for the rules and regulations of grammar, and they shock them when I say there are no rules and regulations. Grammar is more a guideline, but more importantly, no country, no one body owns the English language. Nobody is in charge of it. If you're Japanese, Chinese, Italian, it's as much your language now as it is my language. English isn't just a tool for communication. It's a social phenomena that connects us, divides us. It's constantly evolving. People often talk about the difference between British English, which I tend to speak, and United States English. And there are many differences, especially in spelling, some of the grammar with the perfect tenses, and I notice anything related to motor vehicles, we use very different vocabulary. But for me, the biggest difference, when I go back to England, I notice people my age, their English is very different to the teenagers of places like London. Something has changed, and it's simply because language evolves. Because I'm on the internet a lot, I even find myself using a lot of American English rather than my native English. I don't try to do that, it just happens. That's the evolution of language. Another thing to think about, as so many people from different countries are using English almost every day, is it correct to call the language English? It could be called American, for instance. I think there's more Americans, by that I mean people from the United States, speaking English than there are people from the United Kingdom. Should it be called Englishes? Which is something many sociologists suggest will be a more accurate description of the language, because there are many. There are my British English or my English, London type English, used to be Manchester English, where sometimes the grammar, the vocabulary is different. When I left school or moved from school at 11, I moved from Manchester to London. A neighbour came round to see me and my parents. I couldn't understand what she was saying using London English. I went to school, I couldn't understand why all my new classmates were laughing when I spoke. I didn't realise at the time how different my accent was from Manchester to a London accent, which is the accent I think I still have today, even though I've not lived in the UK for about 30 years. There used to be something that people even today refer to as correct English, RP English, received pronunciation. The English you probably know from the south of England, an upmarket sort of accent from the south of England, in my opinion. That used to be deemed correct English. To work on the BBC, on television, basically you needed to be speaking that type of accent. Thankfully things have changed, and even the BBC, they would have newscasters from every part of the UK and elsewhere as well, because there is no correct version of the English language. There are many different types. Who's to say that my language is better than someone from New York, somebody from Dublin speaking English, somebody from Australia, somebody from South Africa, somebody from the Philippines, where I spend a lot of time at the moment. I think my English is better than Filipino English, but that's just my opinion and nothing more than that. So this language you're learning, don't be scared to make mistakes. Your message is far more important than being perfectly correct. You cannot be a perfectionist in a language spoken by so many people who are non-native speakers, in a language which nobody controls. As I said before, it's your language as much as it is mine. Yes, you have to communicate well, you have to speak with clarity, but worry about your message, not the rules and regulations of English, which don't really exist. Although I'm sure some academics would argue with that. But in my opinion, as long as you're giving me the message in a clear way, I don't care too much about your grammar. If you want to do an IELTS exam or a different type of English exam, fair enough. You have to be very good for the duration of the test. To me, it's a little bit like a driving test. Once you've finished it, you can then speak and try to understand real English with real people, whether they be doctors, professors, somebody sleeping rough on the street, somebody speaking English in India, in China, in Japan. It doesn't matter. As long as we can communicate, fantastic. You're speaking English in a fluent way when you can do that. And I know so many who speak fantastic English as far as grammar, and the tone of their voice I really find pleasing, but they go to a place like London and they don't understand local people. Really, the only way to understand is to talk to everybody, irrespective of who they are. Get to know all the many different types of English, and there are countless types of English. I'm sure yours is as good as anybody else's. And if you're one of my students, I know yours is as good because we talk about very deep, meaningful topics at times. Have a great day. Be confident in your English. If you want to know more, just contact me anytime.